Well, since I have all these stamina potions, let's just go for a little run. How you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day. And today we are here with what is my first episode of Runescape Rankings. This is hopefully a series that I'll do whenever I find ideas and topics that I would like to rank. Now, this is one that I've been sitting on for a little bit. Really something I've just had to internally debate because obviously this isn't something you put up without a lot of confidence. And that is the skill rankings in old school RuneScape as far as 1 through 23. I'll be ordering all of the skills in my personal, did you hear that? Personal favorite to least favorite. We'll be going from the bottom to the top, so we'll be starting with what is skill number 23 and working our way up to skill number 1. So as far as how I'll be ranking all the skills, we'll be ranking them 1 through 23 based on an average of the rankings that I have for 2 different categories. Now the first one is grind. Basically with the grind category, that's just how much, like if I do the skill more and more, how much I continue to really hate it. Some skills are very tiresome. After a while you just can't be asked to do anymore, and some aren't that bad because you can kind of AFK or relax while you do them. The second is usefulness of the skill, how much this skill actually benefits your in-game play, like whenever you're not doing it. Obviously if you're thieving, you know, you may get more increased chances to thieve while you're doing the skill, but once you get done with thieving, how good is thieving actually for you? So coming in at skill number 23, we have Hunter. Personally, this is one that I just hate an absolute ton. There's no way I can get past this. Honestly, I understand that a lot of people enjoy Hunter. And it's really a hit or a miss, I think, for most people. For me, absolute miss. The perks of it, you are going to make money. However, I just cannot stand at all just sitting there, because there's no constant roll to it. Like with other skills, you can kind of get in the groove of it. With this, you can be thrown off by a missed catch or something you have no control over, and it just absolutely blows my mind. As far as the grind, I give it a 1. I hate it, but it is useful because you can get money. Now coming in at number 22, we have agility. Now this is one I think a lot more people are probably with me on. Some of you may like it, obviously, but for me, one I don't really enjoy. As far as the perks, you have the arty course and you make a little bit of money. Other than that, not that great. The gripes with this, I mean, honestly, there's little meaning for agility. There's not a lot of uses for it outside of agility itself. And honestly, having content where I don't have to pay attention but I also can't be AFK isn't really great. Coming in at number 21 is woodcutting. Now this might be a noob or free-to-play person's dream. Honestly, not something I really rock with. The perks of it, you do have redwoods, which are really AFK, but you need 90 woodcutting for that. You do make some side money, but for an account that actually can make money in other ways, nothing that's notable for me. And as far as a gripe, the best thing you're going to see here is a bird's nest, and I'm pretty sure that speaks for itself. Next up at number 20, we have mining, and this is one that's pretty simple. I don't mind doing it in Motherlode Mine, but even then, the skill itself doesn't make that much money, and honestly, just as content that I really don't enjoy doing all that much. Much like agility, it's somewhat AFK, but you don't know when the AFK stops, so for me, it's not that easy to do, and overall, the use in the game, pretty low, I'd say. Now in at 19, we have farming. Now as far as the perks of farming, now I did this on an Iron Man. I don't do herb runs on my main, which is why I don't enjoy it that much, but honestly if you do herb runs for cash because you need cash, farming isn't all that bad. However, herb runs are really slow. If you want to do it a fast way, it's either expensive, and honestly it just seems like a banking simulator with how much you just constantly go to the bank, do your quick route. I probably spend more time in the bank trying to get my inventory set up. Coming in at number 18, we have fire making. Now with Wintertot, I personally don't mind the skill all too much. As far as the grind, it's pretty decent to be able to do. The AFK there isn't great though, because you really don't know when you're gonna get hit by the cold. However, on top of that, you do get a little bit of GP, and as far as the skill goes, it's not all too useful, so that's why fire making sits a little low for me. Finding its way in at 17, we have thieving. Now as far as why thieving is at 17, personally I think it's a pretty easy skill to grind out, considering you have to sit and just click in the same spot a lot. As far as that goes though, that's kind of why the skill isn't that great, because it's not that great of a skill to do, and the other methods aren't all that fun. So you do make a little money, but ultimately not fun. At 16, we have our first buyable, and that is crafting. Now, that's one of the perks, is that you can buy it, as with other skills, you might not be able to. The cape itself is obviously pretty nice, but then again, that may show how much I don't like this skill, if the capability is enough to sway me. The gripes, it's a little expensive. It's not as bad as it's been in the past, but even then, the grind itself isn't that bad, but the usefulness of the skill, too, is just really low, because you don't have to craft a lot of your own stuff. Keeping the theme of the Bibles going, we have 15 herb lore, and the perks for herb lore is it's a pretty easy grind, honestly. I've been doing stamina potions a lot lately. It's just really AFK, but it does cost a lot of money, which is exactly the grind. Pretty much your standard buyable without any use in the game other than maybe an overload at raids. So the grind, easy, usefulness of the skill, minuscule. At 14, we have smithing. As far as why I like this, honestly, smithing's kind of nice because you can make money off of it if you're a noob, or you can do it quickly with gold, or if you're someone who's experienced and just wants to get the skill out of the way. The gripes, not really AFK. Most people are going to do this through the blast furnace method, and with that, you really won't have any time to do much else. The grind, little rough. The skill, somewhat useful, I guess, in-game, and ultimately, pretty decent skill, I'd say, overall, right about average. Number 13 is rune crafting, and I'm guessing a lot of people thought I'd have this much lower. Personally, it's the lowest skill that I have. As far as how that goes, though, basically the perks of this is GP. With this skill, you can make a ton of money, and that's something I factored in pretty heavily here. While it may not be useful for me because I can do high-level PvM, for some people it may be. With that as well, if you can get through some of the early game content, it does at some point become somewhat AFK, so if you're like me and like AFK stuff, then this can eventually be good for you. However, I have not progressed since that mid-level content. The gripes, it's pretty much just running forever unless you end up doing something like Bloods or Souls, but I mean, honestly, I guess if you just want to sum any skill up in a really repetitive way, you could probably do that. At number 12, we have Fletching. Fletching's just an average skill. I think we can almost all pretty much agree on that. It's easy to grind. As far as how useful it really isn't at all, and that's why it's here. Now, I have construction at 11. As far as why I like this, it's useful and it's fast. If you have money, you can do it pretty quick. The gripes, though, your hands are going to die pretty much after you get done doing this, and on top of that, it is pretty hard to understand what all needs to go on within your house. There's a lot of stuff you have to do, and it's kind of hard to learn. Coming in at number 10, we have fishing. As far as why I like this skill, it's noob accessible, so pretty much anyone can do this whenever. It's AFK and easy to start to understand how to do the skill. It's just clicking on a puddle, and I guess not puddle, probably a pond. The grind itself is pretty easy. I mean, the skill, honestly, isn't all that useful. You don't really do much with fishing other than just fish more fish. I guess if I had a gripe, I'd say it's probably because it's a slower skill, and I wish I could get it done quicker. Number 10, cooking. The reason I like this is because it's pretty much fishing. It's noob accessible, and you know, I mean, it's pretty much the same grind as fishing, except cooking is a little bit quicker if you want to do it a faster way, which is something I'm definitely a fan of. Next up, we start to break into the combat stats, and that is prayer at number 8. If you can't tell, I do like combat, so that's why mine may skew a little heavily that way. But honestly, a lot of the stats are, I think, more useful in the game, so that's why they also rank so highly. Prayer, the perks of it, it's a buyable skill, and with the new invention of the Chaos Altar, you can now use half the bones, which will save you a good chunk of money. On top of that, you do get a couple prayers, but the main gripes of this skill cost a lot of money, and honestly, after 70 prayer, well, I guess like, okay, pretty much 80 prayer, there's nothing left, so kind of a waste, but whatever. Easy grind, maybe not the most useful. At number 7, we have hit points. Do I really need to talk about why? The perks of hit points, it's easy to grind because no one cares about it. It pretty much sits there and gets passive XP. Really, the skill is just a stepchild no one cares about. It's there, you know, you'll check up on it every now and then, maybe it's achieved something, you're not really sure, you don't really care. And yeah, it's pretty much a passive 99 that your friend gets, and you're not really excited to be at the party. At number 6, we have range, the first skill able to kill another being. As far as the perks of range, honestly, the blowpipe, which is just one of the best weapons in game, is unlocked through this skill at level 75, and the higher your range, the better you're going to be with it, making you that much more of a destroyer. I guess on top of that, chinning is pretty overpowered, so if you want to get range up really, really quick, you can get insane rates at Monkey Madness 2 or Monkey Madness 1, both of those being available to you, and honestly, makes ranging absolutely a breeze. However, it's expensive, so in the grind section where I put it at a 6, that's partially considering the fact that while it is such an easy grind, it also is going to cost you a lot, which then you have to regrind for. So moving into the top 5, we start with defense. As far as why defense, I guess, is useful, is it's pretty easy to grind. Again, as far as combat goes, I do think combat's some of the most enjoyable stuff to grind in-game. Maybe people that are really into skilling disagree with me there. Again, personal preference, I just enjoy combat a lot. PvMing in any sense is just enjoyable to me, and so in that regard, I do enjoy defense in just doing it. On top of that, it is burstable, so you can actually use magic to be able to get this up, which is nice. But I guess on the downside, it has a little significance once you start to get to the higher levels. Taking away a little bit of damage really doesn't mean a whole lot. However, the armor upgrades are pretty significant. At number 4, we have attack. Now, this is one that I think maybe in my heart is a little higher. I'm not sure if I'm underselling it here, but the perks of it, honestly, the item unlocks are great, and getting your attack up early game is so much fun. The armor upgrades are such a necessity, and they're so fun to be a part of that it's just so enjoyable, I think. And the round stats, I know it's weird, but I really do enjoy how with attack, you pretty much unlock stuff at 5s and 0s, so you can keep that stat at a round level. I don't know, it's something I've always kind of enjoyed about it. As far as a gripe, I guess accuracy is the gripe because no one really cares about accuracy. Personally, I know that an attack level means something, but to some people, when you can't really see how much more often you're hitting, it really doesn't matter and can probably just brush them by. Getting bronze in this category is strength, coming in at number 3. As far as why I like it, the high hits and just increasing max hits I guess you can get with the strength is just enjoyable to see. Whenever you start to hit higher, that just motivates you more and more to grind it, and honestly just really makes the skill fun for you. You actually get to see yourself getting better. It sounds weird, but I guess at the lower levels it's something that really entices you. Once you get on, it really doesn't matter all too much, but it's definitely the most enjoyable, I think, combat skill to train. As far as the gripes with strength, there's really none. There's nothing I can even make up. That's why I enjoy it so much. There's nothing I hate about it. The grind's fun, and the usefulness of strength is immense because the DPS matters so much. At number 2, we have a skill that if you told me before to name my top 3, I wouldn't have thought made it, and that's magic. It's not something that I would just think about and think that it's one of my favorites, but the more I think about it, just the amount of methods that magic has, honestly, is what draws me into it. There's so many different ways to go about training it. You can splash at Kraken, you can do Slayer with Bursting and Ancients and stuff like that. You can do so many different spells on the Lunar Spellbook. You can High Alch, and Stun. I enjoy it so much because you can just train in so many different ways. The gripes, I guess you could say, if you're doing low-level methods like teleporting and High Alching, they could be boring, but other than that, I mean, honestly, once you get out of that low-level area, it just becomes so much more fun. And number 1, honestly, this is what I would have expected had you told me earlier, and it's just something I've enjoyed for so long. Slayer coming in at number 1, no surprise to me, and maybe no surprise to any of you if you know me pretty well. I'm someone that obviously enjoys some PvM, and Slayer is probably one of the most fun skills in game because of the content that it unlocks for you, and just the constant ability to change up what you do in game. I think it's the best because there's so much variety to it. You do so many different tasks because you're just told to. It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense, like if you were just going to run around killing random amounts of things, but the fact that you're working for a goal to, in the future, be able to fight better bosses kind of all makes sense and makes it a really enjoyable skill. The only thing I guess I could say about Slayer that I don't enjoy is the low level grind. I feel from like 1 to 70, which is a pretty decent amount. If you know anything about XP rates, it's not a very decent amount, but level wise it is. 1 through 70, just a grind that you have to understand that once you get through that, once you break through, it's going to be so much better, but for the time being, not the greatest. However, that's a small bit of it, and honestly, I don't even mind the low-level Slayer all that bad. The usefulness is incredible too, and that's why it comes in at number 1. Whew, so we made it. That's my number 1, Slayer. It's one I like, but let me know down below, what do you guys think I was the most off on? What skill do you have the most disagreement with me on? Let me know down below. If you like the content, want to see more, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And ultimately, I appreciate you guys for watching the video and just want you guys to have a wonderful day. I'm gonna leave.